Maseches Bava Kama daf Kuf Tes Amud Beis. Kuf Tes Amud Beis. We are in the Baruch Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem, in the sixth line from the top of the page. The sixth line from the top of the page. Michlal is the beginning, but we are in Boy Ravina. Question asked by Ravina. Be'ezras Hashem, we'll get Ravina's question and answer. This Shiur is Ilu Nishmas Ovi Moira Menachem Ben Akiva Rus Bas Sholem Sol Bas Moshe. The Refuah says the form Bas Shoshana Malka. The Voiro Bas Rus, Yehudis Bas Rivka, Tomo Bas Lea Bas Tomo. The Soch Shochal Israel. Rabina, we were learning about Gezel Ager. What's Gezel Ager? If a ger dies, a convert, and let's say somebody stole from the convert, yeah? If somebody stole from the convert, then what does that mean? And the convert has no children. There's nobody to return the money to. So if there is no choimish ve'osham, if there was no shvur sheker and confession and all business, it's just the money. It stays by the ganev. Not nice, but that's life because the ganev lamaisa is the one holding it. If the ger, what? He has to make a living. Mashen can, if there's chomish ve'osham, if there was confession and there was a hoido, then it goes to the Kohanim. Which are the Kohanim? Who are the Kohanim? It goes to the Kohanim that happen to be working in Beis HaMikdash that week, the week where he brings the Asham. Okay? Because not every Kohen worked all the time. There were 24 mishmaros, 24 shifts, and each one would work twice a year besides Yomim Tovim. Boy Ravina. Ravina asks the question, what's the halacha if somebody stole from a woman convert, a she convert, yeah, not of Ron McKenzie, Sarah McKenzie. Somebody stole from her. Why should it make a difference? Because it says in the Torah, Ish, yeah, it says Ish Amar Rachmana v'lo Isha. It says in the Torah, La Ish Goyel. If the man has no Goyel, the man has no, yeah, has no Yorshim, he has nobody that would inherit the money and claim the money from the thief, then he gives it to the Kohanim. So does it mean to say Ish v'lo Isha? Is the Torah being specific and means to say a man and not a woman? Or Dilma, or maybe Uche Dekohu. Maybe that's just the way of the Torah to talk about, men and not women. But as they say, the instructions apply to both genders. Now, I asked the question to Mahavarusa. It says in Daf Tesvav, many moons ago, we're about to finish the Masechta, you know that? The beginning of the Masechta, Daf Tesvav Amud Aleph, we saw that Ishva Kosuv Ishli Shadachol Dinim Shabbatayra. Men and women are equal in the Torah. Oh, what a nice title for this year. Yeah, when it comes to money. Yeah, a man and woman both neither can steal, nobody can be stolen from. So why is there an issue over here? I'll tell you why, I think. Because over here, the issue is not money. The issue is kaporo, korbanos. In other words, do I have to bring chomish ve'osham to the Kohanim, or maybe no? Maybe I keep it to myself because a woman gioritz is different. And it's not a monetary question. It's a question of kapara because the Karen and the chomish and the osham, the reason I have to bring them to the Kohanim is part of my teshuva process. It's not part of regular choshen mishpat monetary laws. Maybe that's why there's a new question that has nothing to do with money issues. That's a question. Amal Rav Aaron, very rare. I think it's almost the first time that I see Rav Aaron, not Rabban Kotler. Of course it's you. Amal Rav Aaron in the Moira says Ravina. Says Rav Aaron to Ravina. Toshma, listen to this, the Tanya. Ish, it says about the ger. Ish, en leila ish, isha minayin. How do you know that a woman gioris that someone stole from also is the same thing? You have to bring the chomish and osham to the chomish, the keren and the chomish. You have to give to the kohanim, just like you would to a man. How do you know that? It says ish, doesn't say isha. So how do you include and bring in a woman too? Shu omer hamushav arekan shnayim. If you look on the side, it says in the pasuk, Kim ein leish gol lehoshiv haosham elov haosham hamushav laShem. You have to return the osham. Then it says hamushav laShem, the one that's being returned to Hashem. That's redundant, l'choiro. That's extra because I know already meishiv. You have to give it back. So why do you have to say again hamushav, the one being returned? I know it's being returned. Why do you have to mention twice? Arekan shnayim. When you have an extra pasuk, return, there are two types of korban, not korban, excuse me. There are two cases, two types of keren v'chomesh being returned, one for the man, one for the woman. That's why we mentioned both. Imken, frag the Braisa, matal mudloimer ish. So why did the Torah write ish? Why did the Torah tell me ish? Why did the Torah say man, which makes me think that it's supposed to woman? And then the Torah comes to include the woman. Why adding one? Why subtracting one and then adding it? Why do you mislead me? The Torah is saying ish, only a man, not a woman, and then you say no, also a woman. Why work that way? Unless there's something else you want to learn from the word ish. Says the Gemara, ish at tzorich lachzor achrov im yesh lo goyalim. A man, an adult man, you have to make sure before you give it to the Kohanim so excitedly, you first have to make sure maybe he has children. Are you sure that Avram McKenzie, that ger who lived, in the back of the street, had no children? How do you know? Check it out. Yeah. Go to the website of Misrad Apnim. I don't know what you do. Go ask all the yachnis in the neighborhoods, those who know everything. Go to the hospital. Go and check. Maybe he has children somewhere. Maybe they're not in touch with him. I don't know. Right? You have to make sure that he has no children, because if he does have children, you give them the keren and the choimish. However, cotton, imlav, cotton, let's say you stole from a girl cotton. A girl cotton is a girl cotton. Now, let's say his father died, so he has no parents, and he has no children. I was going to say the wrong word, obviously. Listen to this. If it's a little boy below bar mitzvah that has no two hairs, you don't have to look and make sure he has no children. But that's what the term means to say. We know for sure that a boy under bar mitzvah has no children, and therefore by him, the chiddush is that ish, a man, you have to look and see if he has yorshim, and only if he has no children, then you give it to the kohanim. For Shenkin, a kid who's a minor under bar mitzvah, we know that he has no children, and therefore you don't have to look and see. Maybe that 12 years old held children. We don't have to do that, and we can just give it straight right away to the Kohanim in Beis HaMikdash, give them the keren v'chomesh without looking for children of the child. The question everybody's asking now, this is now, I have telepathy with everybody in the room. This is a telepathy show, mentalist. You're asking, yeah, it paid 100 shekel a show. What's a chiddush? Of course I know that a child cannot have children, right? This is because we don't have the right hashkafa. Says Rashi, you know how we know the children have no children? Because of this pasuk. Not because the doctors told us, or because the newspapers told us. A man who's not really a man, who's under bar mitzvah, even though he's 9, 10, 11 years old, still he has no children. How do we know that from the Torah? From the mere fact that the Torah told me that I don't have to look for children, the drasha tells me you don't have to look for, out and make sure he has no children. From here I know he has no children, not because of biology. The biology and the physiology and everything else are based on the Torah, not the other way. Just to make it a little bit clearer to you and make it a little bit happier, that if halachically, a cotton above the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 and a half, 12 and 3/4, that age, that awkward age between 9 and 13, that age, if a child has relations with a woman, it's called having relations. And that's a difference. In other words, the child functionality as a man in the relationship is considered having bia, which means, well, who cares? Well, nobody's going to kill him if he went with an Ashes Ish, or we're going to kill her. Let's say a cotton, Gemara Sanhedrin, and that's the halacha. I mean, today you don't kill those people, but if a cotton of 9 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, is quite a developed boy, and he's 12 years old, and his 20 years old neighbor is an Ashes Ish, a woman, and she likes him very much. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if such things don't happen in the Western world. And what happens then? Then the 12 years old and her, they had relations. So now him, you don't kill. Why? Because he's underage. You kill her. You kill her because it's called that she is an Ashes Ish and relations. Because the relations with the 9 years old is called relations, as opposed to if she had it with an 8 years old, let's assume there was some functional there, still you don't do anything to her, because except for sending her to a psychologist, I think. Yeah, because why? Because that's considered not as bia at all. Kamash Malan, they may have bia, the relations, but children they don't have. Children below 13 they don't have, and we actually learned that from this pasuk. Yes, I am listening. Onu Rabbonon, Lashem. Line starts with Lashem. Lashem Lakoyen. When a ger dies, and now the Ganav stays with the Choimish, the Keren, and the Choimish, and obviously the Asham, you give it to Hashem, to the Kohen. What do you mean Hashem to the Kohen? No Hashem. Hashem is now who Ki'ilu inherited the ger. Hashem is the ger's relative, so to speak. Hashem got it from the ger who's dead. The Nosno Lakoyen, Shebe'oisoi Mishma, which means what? The Kohen, or actually you have to change that to plural, clearly from Rashi, the Kohanim who work in that Mishma, which means, what's a Mishma? You know that there were 24 groups of Kohanim divided by families, and each of them would work 1 week in the winter, 1 week in the summer. Don't talk to me about Yomi Tovim. That's a different story. If it's a regular, nice, weekday, regular week, then there are different mishmaras. So the mishmar of, let's say, Yehoyariv was the first mishmar. They, let's say, worked, and they happen to be working now in Beis HaMikdash. When Mr. Ganev comes and he says, "Oh, I stole from the ger, Karen Chomish, the ger died," who's going to get the Chomish? Who's going to get the Karen and the Chomish? We're talking here millions. You know how much he stole from Mackenzie? $1 million plus a quarter. Who gets $1 million plus a $250,000? The Kohen Shaboiso Mishmar, the Kohanim who happen to be serving during that Mishmar, when he brings what? The Karen and the Chomish and Asham. Atar Kohen Shaboiso Mishmar, you're telling me the Kohen that works, or Kohanim who work during that Mishmar, during that week in Beis HaMikdash, that's when they work and they get it. Wow, lucky them. They got the lucky part. How do you know? Maybe you can just give it to any Kohen. Who told you? Maybe you can give it to your next door neighbor, Kohen. No Kohanim here. Maybe you can give it to Moshe Berk. Maybe I'll give it to my friend, Naftali Kaplan. I never stole from a ger, to be honest. I don't think I stole from anybody. Yeah, but if I'd be steal from a ger, I'd like to give it to my friend Kaplan. I want to give it to Kahanovich. Who told you that I have to give it dafka to the Kohanim in Beis HaMikdash? Maybe I'll give it to my next door neighbor who's a Kohen. Answers the Brisa, nishtazoi. Sheu oimer, when it says in the Torah, milvad, I would write in English, besides Ela Kippur Mesherchaper Boy Olov. What does that mean? You bring the Chomish, you bring the Karen and the Chomish zusammen together besides the Ela Kippurim. Ela Kippurim is a korban. That's an Asham. Which means, as we all know, a korban Asham, you can only bring where? One place only. Can't bring it in Lakewood, not in Monsey, not even in the old city, not even the Har Bayis. You can only bring the Asham where? In Beis HaMikdash. Who are you going to give the Asham to? Who gets it? The Kohanim. Which Kohanim? Obviously, the Kohanim who happen to be working then in Beis HaMikdash. Nobody else is going to get it. And when we say get it, it means 3 things. You better prepare for it now, although I know you know it. But Lamaisa, when a Kohen, let's say somebody comes to Beis HaMikdash, hello, hi, I have to bring an Asham, or actually any other korban. Let's talk now about Kodesh Kodeshim, Tatas or Asham. Who does the work? Who does the actual service? The Kohanim of that Mishmar. Who is going to get the flesh of the korban? The Kohanim. I'm talking about Kodesh Kodeshim here. Tatas and Asham, to make it simple. That's the simplest korbanos to talk about. Who's going to get the skin, the hide? Who's going to get the hide of the korbanos? Who? The Kohanim. Not just by Oilo, also by Tatas and Asham. So Bekitzer, since the Kohen gets the Ayil, Asham, because you're bringing Asham, together with the Asham, in one go, goes also the Karen and the Chomish, and therefore the Kohanim who work in Beis HaMikdash on that week when you bring the Asham, they also get the Karen and the Chomish. It's very simple, and not your next door neighbor or your Mechutan or your Chavrusa who happen not to be working right now in Beis HaMikdash. The other Kohanim, only those who are in Kohanim in Beis HaMikdash. So far, so beautiful. Tonu Rabbanon. Good, happy, nice. Tonu Rabbanon. Now comes the Brisa with a sticky question. Kohen. Misleading verbs over here. Let's say the Kohen was the goizel. Let's say the one who stole from the ger was the Kohen himself. Oh, He's a Kohen, and yet he stole. So Mr. Cohen stole from who? From the ger. And now he wants to say as follows. Listen to what this Kohen wants to do. Minayin shelo yoimar. How do we know that he cannot say the following? I'm now the lawyer of the Kohen who stole. What does that Kohen want to claim and say for himself? He wants to say, since anyhow this Keren and Chomesh are supposed to go to Kohanim, not to Israelim, and right now it's by me. The Keren and the Chomesh happen to be in my pocket. It should be mine. It should stay here. Why bother giving it to all the Kohanim, myself included? I can leave it by me because I'm a Kohen. I'm supposed to give it to Kohanim. Well, I'm a Kohen myself. So therefore, I will leave the Keren, the Chomesh, in my pocket, and it will be okay. Now I'm asked about the Asham, no problem. He can bring his own Asham whenever he wants. Let me just preface this by saying, to make it sound not chas v'shalom ridiculous, what the Gemara says, if this Kohen, or any Kohen, by the way, any Kohen, and there's one, I don't know, you call it in good English, that's like the Joker card, the Ace card, you pull the Trump card, there's one thing that can break completely the order of the Mishmoros. You have a very Yekish order. Those of you who learned Sukkah, Mishnais, and Gemara at the end, you have a very orderly order of the orders of the Kohanim, week by week by week. It's very Mesuder, all stories over there. Lamaisa, there's one rule that breaks that. Let's say I'm a Kohen, and I come from the Mishmara of Bilga. I come from Bilga, but this week I'm supposed to be staying home and learning Torah in my house in, I don't know where, it's Tveria. And right now, Beis HaMikdash is working. Yehoyariv are working now. And I'm from Bilga. I'm from a different mishmar, but I want to bring my own korban. Unfortunately, I turned on the light on Shabbos yesterday, completely by mistake. I was sure it was a Sunday. It said Sunday on my calendar, middle of the night. So which korban do I have to bring if I turn on the light by Shabbos by mistake? Chatas. So now, my own chatas, since I'm a Kohen, I can go to Beis HaMikdash. Now can the nurse says, hi, everyone. I'm bringing my own chatas and not you people. I'll do the whole avodah, and I also get to eat the korban chatas, and also I'm going to stay with the skin. Bye. And that's halacha. There's a pasuk, Ba'alevi. There's a whole. We're going to discuss it later. So now says Mr. Kohen thief says, listen, I can bring the chomesh v'osha, leave the chomesh and carry it to myself. It's not the korban. I could also bring it myself. The keren, the chomesh, I was supposed to give to the other kohanim. Well, I'm a kohen. So let it stay by me. That's what he wants to say. The dinu. Now we want to say kal v'chomer to assert and back that kind of logic. If let's say Mr. Israelovich, a regular Israel, would come to Beis HaMikdash, and I would be one of the working guys in Beis HaMikdash, Kohanim, I would get part of his chomesh and his keren. I would get $250,000. Yeah, so if it's my own korban and my own chomesh b'asham, of course the money should stay by me. If I'm getting from others, definitely I should stay with mine. What do you want to ask? It's Chozer B'tshuva. No, it's Chozer B'tshuva. It was the one of Gzeila. We learned that a Gazlan that breaks his Gzeila, let's say it's a gambler, professional gambler, he broke the sticks, he broke the roulette. He closed his casino, and he with a sledgehammer went to all the machines in the casino, all the roulettes and the blackjacks, and he says Chozer B'tshuva Shleima. Big tears running down his cheek in front of the camera, in front of the Yomi. He's okay. So he did tshuva here. I thought your question would be different. The question that Tosfos asks is that something in this Kal V'chomer doesn't work right. Why? Because what does he say? If there was a korban from a foreign person in Israel, I would be getting what? Part of the chomesh, of the keren and chomesh. Now that I'm the one who has to bring the keren and chomesh, let it stay by me. That's a Kal V'chomer. You remember the concept of? You did? Okay. Dayoy. You remember dayoy from Dav Chafei? Dayoy means this Kal V'chomer, you're aiming for higher than the original item of Kal V'chomer, meaning, had it been Israel, a foreigner, not you, Mr. Kohen, who'd come to Beis HaMikdash, how much would you get? Let's say there are 50 Kohanim in the Mishmeres, you'd get 1/50 of the loot of the Keren V'chomish. But Shenken, now you want to stay with the entire thing. You want the whole thing to stay by you. So Tosfos asks this as a question and stays with the question. The reason why Tosfos doesn't go crazy because anyhow this logic is going to be toppled over. And you're going to reject it. So there's another way to reject it anyways. Yeah, so we remain with the question, but anyhow, we're not going to stay with that line of thought. By the way, up until now, we are advocating for something we're not going to believe at the end. We're sort of like saying, why can't you say ba 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 ba? Why don't you say, says Rabbi Nosson, in a different way to defend the Kohen who wants to do what? To stay with his chomish, keren the chomish, and not give them. And he wants to say like this. Let's talk now about regular matnas kiuna. Give me an example for the most regular, inane, cliche kind of matnas kiuna. Quick. What do you give a Kohen? Truma, that's a boy. Truma. When a Kohen has no chelik in Truma and has no rights to demand Truma, which means I have Truma, I have a field in Golan, or I did shopping in a supermarket in Tel Aviv. If you buy in Tel Aviv, you better take Truma. I don't know, even if the Rabbanu there, they know what they're doing with the Truma heirs. Take it from me. Okay, so let's say you bought some nice fruit in a supermarket in a completely chiloni place, or you're now you have Truma to give the Kohen. Let's say it's time to bit. Let's say you want to give the Kohen can take the Truma. Can the Kohen come to your house and demand the Truma, give it to me and not to another Kohen? No. It says Ishash Kadosh of Lo Hiyu in last week's parsha, which means the right to decide which Kohen I'll give the Truma belongs to me, the owner. I can decide and nothing to do with the Avodah in Beis HaMikdash. No. In other words, I want to give it to my good friend Naftali, the Kohen, and I don't want to give it to Kahana. I want to give it to a Kahanovich and not to Kahana. I want to give it to my friend. I have every right in the world. And therefore, I'm reading again. An item such as Truma or Reshis Agez and all these matnas kehuna, like the wool and all that, he has no right in it until it got to his hands. I decided at the end to give it to my friend Naftali the Kohen. Here's a nice bunch of cherries for you. Once the cherries are in the hands of the Kohen, other Kohanim cannot take it from him. Once he got it from the Israel, once the chosen and the winner is Mr. Kahanovich, he's the one who got the cherries of the Truma, then it's full ownership. Nobody can take it away from him, obviously. Kol shekain, kal v'chomer, davar sheyesh lo chelik boi, ad shelo yikanis b'shusoi. In this, the item where I have a share in it, what's the matnas tuna here? Keren v'chomish. Who's giving the keren v'chomish? Me. I'm a Kohen. It already belongs to me, and I have a foot in it before it even started, before it's given to Kohanim. Right? So obviously nobody can take it away from me. That's logic. Listen, if a Truma or Gez or anything that I have no tvia over, I can just have to wait for the mercy of Mr. Israel to give me that nice bunch of cherries of Truma. Well, once he gave it to me, it's mine, mine, mine. Kol sheken, when the Kohen himself is one who has to give the matnas kehuna, in this case, keren v'chomish, let it stay by me. Why should it go through the works? Yeah, that would be an interesting logic. Answers the Gemara, no. And the answer is a punch in the face. Just the other way, says the Gemara to the selfish Kohen. Im amart bedova, we're now refuting what we said. We're rejecting now. Im amart bedova she'ein lo chelek boi. Those cherries of Truma, or the nice piece of wool of Reshis Agez, shekashem she'en lo chelek boi, kachen la'acherim chelek boi. Of course, the other people cannot take it. You know why? Because nobody has a tvi on it. When I have the nice bunch of cherries in front of 100 Kohanim, they're all dying for cherries, yeah? Or I have a nice piece of wool, nobody has the right. Neither Kahana who got it at the end, nor Kahanovich, Azulai, or Kappa, and all the others. Nobody has a claim. Mimela, of course, once Kahana got it, nobody else can have a claim because they never had a claim. Nobody has rights over it. As opposed to Tomer Begezel. Gezel is different. The other way around. It's similar to what Tosa says in Gezel Ager, just like you have parts in it, so to everybody else have parts in it, right? Everybody in the Mishmar have parts in it, just like you, right? You're saying, I now go to Beis HaMikdash, I'm going to Beis HaMikdash to be makriv and keep it to myself. That's not true. The other people have a claim in it just like you. All, as opposed to, I want to pinpoint more, the truma or gez, no coin in the world, and there are tens of thousands of them, nobody can claim it's my share is more than everybody else. We're waiting for the mercy of the giver, right? By a gezel again, it's not like that. There's an elite, exclusive, specific group of Kohanim who work in Beis HaMikdash, and only they're going to get it, nobody else, right? So Mimela, there is a more specific, exclusive Tvia group of claimants, and therefore, don't tell me it's going to stay by me, because there are specific people who claim it, and they're not you. So Mimela, the logic from Truma to here is wrong. You look from your point of view, this is my Truma, even though I had no chelik, Koshikin, it's my Gezel Ager. No, mister, don't be so egocentric. Look at the whole picture. In the case of Truma, nobody can claim it out of your hands because nobody had a claim ever. You didn't have a claim, neither did they. So nobody, obviously, they all went home not winning the lottery. Who said they're going to win the lottery of getting the Truma? But Shekin, the Gezel Ager, no. Everybody had Tviyah. Everybody in the Mishmar had the Tviyah on it. Who says that Tviyah went home? Similar to what Tosfos said. Who said you're going to get the whole thing? Well, each and every coin supposed to get one fraction. Ella, 1 second. I'll promise to you in a minute. So what is the halacha? Which means what? The Gzela is going to go to all the Kohanim. It should leave his hands of Mr. Kahana, even if Kahana is now actually bringing his own Asham, yeah? And therefore his own Asham may be granted more rights. Nevertheless, we say no. We say that the Keren, the Chomesh, is going to be divided and shared by all his brothers of Kohanim who work in that Mishmar. He cannot keep the Keren and the Chomesh to himself. He has to give the Keren and the Chomesh divided by the different Kohanim who work in the same Mishmar, even if he physically does the avodah of the Asham. Okay? Yes. I'm listening. And then you. Weiter. Frag the Gemara. Now, this is all very nice. Basically, what are we saying now? Let's just imagine the picture. It's a Kohen Gazlan. He's doing sincere tshuva with vidui. And now, what does he do? Brings the Asham to Beis HaMikdash. Even though it's not his turn, his mishmora, he can sort of, as Mechavrusa said, barge in and say, I'm here, and now I'm breaking the rules, which is allowed. And because it's my personal korban, I can bring the korban out of order, not during my mishmara. I'm from Bilga. Hi, Yehoyariv guys. I'm your third cousin. I'm bringing now the korban in your mishmara. He brings the asham. He gets to eat it, the flesh, and he gets the skin. He wants to make a leather jacket eventually. And what? And the Karen and the Chomesh, they all get the Karen and the Chomesh. That is what we're saying. Frag the Gemara, how do you say that? Daksiv. It says, Ishas Kodoshov Lo Hiu. It says each person gets his own Kodoshim, which means a Kohen makriv the Korbanos, yeah, then a Kohen that gets to be makriv the Korban gets all the frills, all the accessories with the Korban. Ishas Kodoshov Lo Hiu. When you bring a Korban, you're a Kohen, you get the flesh, you get the skin, and I assume you should also get the Karen and the Chomesh. Because we said before, the Karen and the Chomesh are one set, or one kit together with a Korban. So how do you break it all of a sudden? Why are you telling me all of a sudden that he does the Korban and everybody else gets the Karen and the Chomesh? Karen and the Chomesh V'Asham are inseparable. They're a group. What do you mean? Only you get the candies, the goodies, and I get the other part? Answers the Gemara. And won't make a nukimta, eventually rejected. The Kohen Tomeh, he happens to be Tomeh. He comes to Beis HaMikdash. Well, he doesn't get too far because he can't really go in. Yeah, past the Shar Nikon, or depends what kind of Tuma. The kid says a Kohen Tomeh, which cannot bring his Korban. He doesn't bring his Korban. He happens to be Kohen Tomeh. Maybe sent it to someone else. It's his Korban. He doesn't do the Avodah. You're telling me the one who does the Avodah gets to get everything. You're right. He happens to be here in the Kimta that the Kohen who gets to keep the Chomesh V'Asham, and no, not to keep. The one who gives it to the Kohanim is the one who's Tomeh. Therefore, the other Kohanim, they do the work for him, as if it was a regular Israel. And therefore, they also get the Chomish V'Asham, the Keren the Chomish. Frag the Gemara, Ibe Kohen Tomeh. One second. Ibe Kohen Tomeh. If you want to tell me we're talking here about a Kohen Tomeh, then it doesn't make sense what the Brisa said. It doesn't fit into the Brisa. You want to basically tell me that the entire Brisa that we read now, the back and forth is only in Kohen Tomeh. Reread the Brisa and try and plug it in. It's not going to work because it says Davar sheyesh lo chelik boy. Remember what we said? We said the Kohen says, I have a chelik in it, right? I have a chelik in it, right? When it comes to getting the cherries or the grapes of Truma, I have no chelik originally. Once I got the chelik, I grab it for life. Yeah, nobody can take it. Kol shekain, something which I had a chelik to begin with. But if he said that he's Tomei, he never had a chelik, right? The only reason why you assumed he has the Keren the Chomish by him, the Keren the Chomish, is because he gets to do the Korban. But if he's Tomei, he doesn't have the Keren the Chomish because he's not the one bringing the Korban. Ella, and that's going to be the answer. I'll be with you in a minute. Asya lekoin misdechuza. Soon I'm going to explain why. And we're getting quickly out of the mess. We turn, quick turn out of the mess, and we just learned the halacha that the Kohen does not get the entire Keren Chomish to keep to himself, but he rather has to give it to the Kohanim, even if he does work, even if he does the avodah. We're learning from a whole different Gzera Shova, from Steh Achuza, from a different area in Torah, where there's a similar case which we're going to learn soon. Just like by Steh Achuza, soon will be explained, the Kohen doesn't keep the goodies, although it would be logical he would, but he gives it to everybody else. So to here, he doesn't get to keep the goodies, but he has to share it with everybody else. Although even if he does the entire korban by himself. Yes, Yosef, you want to test something? Yes. Absolutely, he's not. Right. I mean, he could be, by the way, that he is in the Mishmar. It was his week, and yesterday night, Lo Aleinu, when he was asleep, he touched a dead mouse. Then he's off work for that day, and then he cannot bring his own korban. True, he's like a regular throw for that. No replacement, but the other Kohanim will do the job. Everyone else will do it, and everyone else will obviously also get the Keren L'Chomish. Yes.
He's stolen before he brings the Asham. Is he Tomei?
What is the story of Sdei Achuza? The Tanya. Listen. You have to get the introduction here. Everybody knows about the year of Yovel. What happens when the Yovel comes? Besides the Avodim, besides for the slaves, what's the other nafkamina? That all the lands go back to the owner. Oh, very nice. Let's say once upon a time, story time. Reuven consecrated, that's the word of the year, 2022 for me. Reuven consecrated his field for Beis HaMikdash. Now, Beis HaMikdash has very little to do with this field, which happens to be located between Netanya and Ra'anana. He has a field between Netanya and Ra'anana where he goes vacationing every once in a while. So now that field, he was makdish to Beis HaMikdash. What do? The treasurer, also called AKA Gizbar, the treasurer sells the land and gets 5 million shekels cash. And those 5 million shekels, who did he sell it to? Of course, to Shimon. Original owner was Reuven, who was makdish to Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash sells it to Shimon. Shimon now lives in that field, or he bought a skyscraper there, built there. Yeah, 5 million. That 5 million goes to repaint Beis HaMikdash and do many other things. Oh, very nice. Came the Yovel. 20 years later came the Yovel. What happens to the field, which is now temporarily is owned by Shimon? But it's Yovel time, can't stay by you forever, Shimon. You know, every good thing comes to its end. You have to go home at the end of Disneyland or America. So what do you do now when the field is coming out of his hands? Who does the field go to? What? No, it does not go to Reuven, which would be a nice havamina. It's a nice thought, but no. Comes the Torah, it does not go to Reuven, although I would have thought so too. No, it goes to Beis HaMikdash, and not to Beis HaMikdash themselves, to the treasury. It goes to the Kohanim, the very lucky Kohanim, who happen to work in the Mishmar when the Yovel begins. Either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, it's a question. But at the beginning of Yovel, those Kohanim of the opening Mishmar of Yovel, they're going to get the field, and they will share the field between them. 5 million, each one gets a piece of land from that field, because it goes back to Beis HaMikdash, which was, by the way, previous owner, but not the body of Beis HaMikdash, but the Kohanim of that Mishmar. And that's the first halacha in the Torah. That's at the end of Vayikra in the Chukoisai. I just want to point out that's only the case of Sde Achuza. The Sode Achuza, meaning Reuven got it from his forefathers from times of Yeshua. If Reuven bought it from Zalman, then Zalman gets it back. But that's not the issue now. But thank you for the horror. Says the Gemara, Misde Achuza, the Tanya. It says in the Brisa, Achuzosoi Matal Mudloimar. What does it mean when it says his estate, his Achuza, excluding what? Minayin l'Soda Hayotzel Koyani Beyovel, which I just described to you a whole paragraph. You have a Soda, which comes out of the hands of Shimon, the buyer of Beis HaMikdash, and should be going to who now? To the Kohanim. To those Kohanim, they all share that karka, lucky people, those of them who work at the beginning of the Yovel. The Ge'ola Echad Min HaKohanim. Oh, you know what's Shimon's last name in our story? Give me a guess. Kohen. Psh, you guys are all geniuses. I always knew that. Let's say the one who bought it from Beis HaMikdash, his name is Kohen. So now he says, listen, why bother with, why running through the bureaucracy? Leave it by me. It's anyhow going to go to Koyanim. Leave it by me. Look at this. Minayin shelo yoimar. How do we know that he should not say, since it's supposed to go out to who? To Koyanim in Yovel. It's anyhow already by me. It should stay by me. Dinu. And don't laugh at me. I'll prove it to you. Dinu is like a logical thing. Let's say I would be in that mishmar, and this coin, this karka would have been owned by Israelovsky, not by Kohen. I would get a big part of it. If I already have it in my pocket, so to speak, in my possession, shouldn't it already stay by me? Well, that would be interesting and nice. Talmud Loimer, his achuza, his own field should stay his. Achuza shaloi, the einzu shaloi, which means only your achuza, which you got from your grandparents, you Mr. Kohen, although Kohanim didn't get a piece of land, I don't know, maybe part of the city, or maybe Yisrael gets his achuza. It's coming to exclude einzu shaloi. The field that you bought from Beis HaMikdash, Mr. Shimon Cohen, should not stay with you, but should rather go back to the Kohanim. HaKetzad, what does happen to that field? What I told you. I'm so sorry, Shimon Cohen. It would be very nice. I feel bad for you. You built a beautiful $5 million skyscraper there between Netanya and Ranana. But Lamaise, you will have to give it back to the Echav HaKohanim of that Mishmar, and each one will get a piece of that. What does it have to do with us? Well, it's extremely similar to our case, right? A Kohen has in his own hands a matnas kehuna. A Kohen has in his own hands what in our story? A keren b'choimish. I stole from Mackenzie $1 million plus $250,000. Should it stay by me? By going through the red tape, just leave it by me. That would be nice, but no. The answer is we'll learn Shava. Lakoyen, just like Besdeh Chuza, he has to give it to the other Kohanim. So to here, he has to give the Chamesh Vasham to other Kohanim. Very good. And even though, that's a big chiddush here though, the bottom of the chiddush is that even though he himself comes and brings the Asham, and he actually works, does everything, Shchita, Kabbalah, Zrika, everything, Aktara, and he gets to eat the meat. He has to have good appetite, as we'll see later. He has to eat an entire ram. In how long? Till Chatzois. Can you eat an entire ram until midnight? I don't know. Actually, with my new diet, I can. I should eat a lot of proteins. Maybe that should be part of the diet, yeah? I'm not a Kohen, can't eat Asham. But a Kohen who brings an Asham, brings his own Asham. He also gets to keep the hide. He goes back home on a motorcycle, so he has to have a leather jacket. Otherwise, he's not Yoitze. So he gets also the hide, the skin. What about the Karen? Oh, so let him have the Karen in the Choimish. It's part of the deal. Stop right there. The Chiddush is no. The money, geld and cash, Zeres HaKosuv. Those you have to give to the other Kohanim, because we learn Lakohen, because they're Shava from Achuza, from the field that goes back to Kohanim, that the Kohen has to share Matnas Kehuna with the brothers, the Kohanim. And by the way, here we're not talking about hot potato because it's stolen. Everybody here that thinks the idea is, by the way, maybe I also felt that way in a way, we see that it's not because he stole and he has to give back. Because the case of Zdachuza, he didn't steal. The case of Zdachuza, Mr. Kohen, Shimon Kohen, who bought it from the Gizbar, from the treasure Beis HaMikdash, he didn't steal. This is his hard-earned money, the 5 million shekels. He bought it, and it's his, right? And he still has to give it back in Yovel and share it with all the other Kohanim. Same thing over here. You have a matnas tune in your pocket. When the time comes, when the right context comes, you have to give it to all the Kohanim, not just keep it to yourself. Weiter. On the same venue, a different price. Tanu Abonon, and this is actually the source of this whole halacha. Minayin lekohen sheba umakriv korbanoisav. How do you know a kohen can come to Beis HaMikdash umakriv korbanoisav b'chol eis b'chol shor sheirtzeh? How do you know that Mr. Kohen, who belongs to the mishmer called Chazir, not Chazir? There's a mishmer called Chazir. I'm a Chazir guy, and what? And I want to bring my mishmer now while it's not my turn. Who's working on Beis HaMikdash? Yehoyada working. How do you know that I can come, barge in, and bring? Maybe I have to coordinate nicely, not barge in. Okay. How do you know I can bring my own korban? If it's my korban, I'm a Kohen, and I turn on the light on Shabbos. I have to bring the chatas, the Asham, or Shlomim. My wife gave birth. I want to say thank you. Okay. How do you know that I can come whenever I want, regardless of the order, and the Kohen can bring his own korban? Amud loymar ubo b'chol avas nafshoy. He can come whenever he wants, and he should serve Hashem and bring the korban. First wide line, first out of two. The second to last line. How do you know that avodosa v'oiro shaloi? Meaning, avodosa here means the flesh, the meat. Avodosa means, Rashi says, the schar of the avodah. The Kohanim, in return for working in Beis HaMikdash, that hard work, they get to keep the meat of the chatas, the Asham, chazeh v'shoik of Shlomim, right? So how do we know that the avodah, the meat, and the or, the skin, the hide, belongs to him also? Amud loymar, as we said before, the ish is kadoshav lo hiyu. So each one keeps his own kadoshim, which means once you are the worker, you also get to actually eat and keep the meat and the skin. That's where it goes. Now let's have interesting applications. So now, let's just summarize. If you're a regular healthy Kohen, you spoke about before Kohen Tomeh, what happens to the Tomeh? It does not work, right? Now, you should now divide in your minds of two sections in your mind. It's a very easy Gemara now. Just for the sake of good order, we should really realize that eating in Beis HaMikdash was not a barbecue. If they could barbecue the meat if they want to do actually, it wasn't some regular eating, it was a mitzvah. It was a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah for the Kohanim to eat. And if you actually say, okay, I'm not going to eat it, I'm on a diet, I'm not going to have meat now, vegetarian, and now I'm not going to eat anything, and it's going to stay there overnight until after Chatzos, and then after the morning after, what happens then? Terrible avera, noisar. It's a terrible avera. It's also not allowed to leave noisar overnight. And if you ate the noisar, you have kores. In other words, you have to eat the karbanos, and it is sort of part of the avodah. And as I told you many times, I think it's from Psochim, koyanim oichlim, baalim iskaprim. When the kohen eats, the baal gets the kapara. Now that the eating of the koyanim, who were holy people, even our friend the Ganav did tshuva, the koyanim eat, and the baalim gets the kapara. So really, you always have to look at the kohen from two aspects. He's the one who does the avodah, he does the shchita, he brings up on the mizbeach, and also he gets to eat. Very nice. Now, if the regular kohen can work, is healthy, tahor, good, everything fine, he does everything. He came from nowhere to bring his own korban. He also gets to get the flesh and eat the meat. Now, Ketzad, Ima Balmum. Oh, what would be if a kohen is Balmum? A kohen has a blemish, or let's say he's a lefty. No offense for lefties, I don't know who's a lefty over here, but a person who uses his left hand is more dexterous in his left hand. Then what? He's called a Balmum. And if he's a kohen, I'm just giving one example out of many. Yeah, or let's say the kohen is half blind, the kohen, whatever, all kinds of things, is limping, whatever. The kohen is a balmum. The kohen is a balmum. Can such a kohen work in Beis HaMikdash? No. Does such a kohen eat the korbanos of Beis HaMikdash? Yes. I'm impressed. Yeah, it says Rashi in the Chumash, l'rabas balmumim lemachloikes. Not only balmum gets to eat, he has the right with all the rest. So you're asking Yosef about a tomeh. Let's say in the mishmeres of Yehoyariv, there are 50 kohanim. and 2 of them are Bali Mumim. The Bali Mumim don't work, but they're allowed to enter Beis HaMikdash up to the Mizbeach and maybe even beyond. They're allowed to be in Beis HaMikdash inside, which means their status is higher than a Tomeh. Yeah? And also they have the right to get part of the meat. In other words, let's say the Kohanim brought the Chatos, so the Asham, they didn't because of Bali Mumim. They have equal rights with all the other Kohanim to get and eat part of the Korban. Bali Mumim are part of the, not Machloikas fighting, as the Chalukah, as the division, they have their share with rights like everybody else. Oh, so let's say there's a Kohen Baal Mum, and he wants to bring his own Korban. Get what I'm saying? Let's say the Kohen is the Baal Mum, and also yesterday on Shabbos, he turned on the light by mistake. He wants to bring the Chatas, and he can bring the Chatas whenever he wants, but here it's not so simple. Ima Baal Mum, Nois na Kohen Shaboisoi Mishmar. He has to give it to the Kohen of that Mishmar, meaning what? Not his Shliach. He cannot say, I want this Kohen to be my Shliach to do the Avodah. Why not? You cannot, can I make a Shliach for Birkas Kohanim? Or, I don't know, can a 9-year-old boy make someone a Shliach to be Mekadesh a woman? The 9 years old wants to marry the 20 years old. And the 9 years old says, well, I cannot be Mekadesh. The rabbi said, I'm too young. So can a 9 years old make a Shliach of 14, his best friend from the gang? And the 14 years, why not? Why not? You're right, but why? So I know he's a cotton. I said it's cotton. So, because you cannot, can I give you can I give you $1 million to deposit in his account? I wish, but I don't have $1 million. You cannot give the power of shlichus if you don't have it in your hands. Just like a cotton cannot be Mekadesh woman, which he does not have within his hands the power of Kiddushin, so he cannot delegate it to someone else. Shlichus means I give the koach that I have to someone else to do it for me. A Baal Mum cannot and will never be able to, until Mashiach comes, bring a korban, work, serve, do the avoid of the korban, not true, do the zrika of the korban, and therefore he cannot give it to others. So who's going to do it for him? The Kohanim. Yeah, not him. He'll have to be like a regular Israel. What would you do? Everybody else would do it for him. However, here there are 2 explanations in Rashi regarding this. The avoid and the or, some Rishonim explain he will be able to eat it. Get it? In other words, everybody else will do the work because why? He cannot do it himself. He's a Baal Mum, and he can't delegate to other people. He can't say, do my avoider for me. What do you mean my avoider? You're Baal Mum. You can't do avoider. Just like a 3-year-old can't be Mekadesh. But the food, to eat it, he can. Right? So Mimela, we could say maybe he gets to eat it. You get what I'm saying? Although it's a machlokas. Because why? Very good. In that, yes, tfisa. Next case, Kuf Yud Amud Aleph, the key case. Let's say the person is a very good Kohen, not Baal Mum. He happens to be old and frail or sick, which means what? He cannot eat much. He can't eat a lot, and also he is allowed to work halachically, but it's hard for him to do the avodah. He was a 90 years old frail guy, barely schlepping his own feet. He's not a Baal Mum. He's okay, but for him it's too hard to do the avodah. It's a very tricky case over here because he can do the avodah, but he wouldn't. He can give it to whoever he wants. Why? Why? Yes, of course he can work. Physically, he can work. He can. He has halachically the halachic ability to do the avodah. Oh yes, absolutely. He's not Tomeh. He's not Israel. He's not an Oinen. He's not a Baal Mum. He's an absolutely kosher Kohen. Technically, he goes like, it's very schwer to do the avodah. He's a 90 years old frail guy. Mimele, he's not going to do, but he can give it to the robust 30 years old. It's just a technical thing. So far, so good. Quick. That's Levim. Yeah, not Kohanim. You are right. Says Tosfos, Kohanim, once he starts shaking and baking, once he's shaking, then midorabonon he cannot work. Midoraisa, no. Midoraisa, as long as he can somehow do the avodah, of course he can't do the shechita when he's shaking. Okay, that's a different story. Weiter. He can delegate another Kohen because conceptually the avodah is. However, wow, but the food is not going to be able to give one Kohen the rights to eat that korban that he does, or he himself won't eat it, but that should be divided by everybody else. What are you talking about? Why? What kind of sick or old person are you talking about? If it's a coin that can work, maybe hard for him, but he can work. Why did you say that the flesh and the skin goes to everybody else and he loses rights over them? Why should he lose the rights? If he is the one who can work or delegate another one, he can still say, I am the owner of my service, of my zrika sadam, my korban, and I will also have the right to eat it or give my body the shliach from my party to eat it. Why did he lose the rights over the eating? The eat the loy matzi over the voido. Elamai, you're talking about such an old guy who's completely all over and absolutely no way he can do the avoido. Then shliach echimashvi. How can he do the shliach? How can he delegate someone else? What's the story over here? Omar Rav Papa answers Rav Papa a very, very middle of the road case. As I told you, I hinted that both working, schlepping the blood and throwing the blood, he can do what's alidad chak in good English? But the Evid, no, how it's called, if necessary, but no choice. In other words, he can do it not the best way. That's like with difficulty. Yeah. And also the food. If you'll force him, he can't eat that much. At 9 years old, they're already feeding him the baby food in the old age home. So Lemaisa, So Lemaisa, how can he eat an entire ram in less than 24 hours? If he'll force himself. So what? Says the Gemara now, beautiful. Avoido dechi obid lalidad chak. Avoido he umashvi shliach. Avoido, the actual service, the schlepping of the blood and throwing the blood and throwing the organs of Beis HaMikdash on the Mizbeach, if he does it alidad chak, it's still called an avoido. He does it with krechting and schlepping and saying, I had better days, etc. But the evidence it's called an avoido. Mimela, he can also give a shliach. He has the rights to give the shliach and delegate it over. But achila, the ki achila dad chak, achila gasahi. A Kohen that is so old and would be forced to eat it would be a b'di'evid for him. That is a new status called achila gasa. You know what's achila gasa? Achila gasa means that the person is super full, is full to his gills, is stuffed to his gills. What? Ungestoppt is a Sephardi teaching me a Yiddish word. Thank you. Achila gasa means overeating, like you stuff yourself. Have you ever been at a very, very fancy American wedding? Well, I haven't. Yeah. After the smorgasbord, and after the 7-course dinner, and after the 10 desserts, and after that, another piece of chicken will be. That's called achila gasa. Achila gasa lav klumhu. Halachically, achila gasa is not called an achila. When you are super, super stuffed and you add on top of that another achila, halachically it's not called achila. I'll tell you even halacha, don't try it at home. If somebody really, really, really stuffed himself before Yom Kippur like crazy, stuffed up to here, and he's eating another kazais or kasevis on Yom Kippur, is not chayiv. It's not called achila. Don't try it at home, yeah? It's not called achila. Mishum hachi avodosa v'oiralan shemishma. Now we get it. Mimela da'achila, he cannot delegate and give other people the rights to eat because he has no option of eating. Let's summarize. So when we have a kohen, which is, not a Baal Mum, not Tomeh, but is just very, very old, and he can do both avoida alidad chak, somehow, second class avoida, and also eat the entire korban very much alidad chak. So now, avoida alidad chak is called avoida. At the end of the day, with all the krechting and schlepping, he managed to get the blood, and then he also brings the ivarim. It's hopefully my last time. Lamaisi did it. He did it just like he can do it and would halachically work. Mimela also, he can delegate it to another person. For him, once he's, a quarter through the Asham, through the ram, or even the lamb, and halfway through, it's like, oh, crazy. And it's called achila gasa. Halachically, it's not called achila. It's not achila. Mimela, if you don't have the ability to halachically eat it, even if you would technically, you can't give it over to other people. I can't give you $1 million if I don't have them in my pocket. I can't be mishalech someone if I don't have the powers. Mainly for achila, then everybody else will chap the achila, and all the nice young guys are gonna grab their part, hopefully not grab, whatever. Although there were stories in Beis HaMikdash of grabbing, by the way, in Beis Sheni. Oh yeah, yeah. Each one will take his piece, and he has no say over it because the achila doesn't belong to him. He's just too old for that. Questions or comments? Have a great day. Yes.